You know that feeling? You really want to speak English more fluently, maybe without hesitating so much, but figuring out how that feels a bit overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, exactly. It can feel like you're lost in the woods a bit, but we've got this guide here, Speak English Fluently.
Right.
And today we're basically going to, well, clear a path through those woods for you. We want to pull out the most actionable, the most effective strategies from this guide.
Things you can actually use, like starting today.
That's the plan. Think of it as maybe a map. This guide covers quite a bit: practice, immersion, vocabulary, grammar, finding people to talk to, staying motivated.
A lot of ground.
It is. So our mission here is to find those really direct routes, the ones that give you the most bang for your buck,
Yeah.
to get you making real progress without feeling totally swamped.
Yeah, sounds good. So this guide, this roadmap, where does it say we should kick things off? What's step one in this journey?
Well, interestingly, it kind of flips the script on how we usually think about learning. It says speaking isn't just the end result of learning. It's actually a core part of the learning process itself. So the first big section is called Active Practice Speak to Learn.
Speak to learn. I like that. Takes the pressure off of it, doesn't it? Like, you're supposed to be doing it to learn, not just showing off what you already know.
Exactly. It taps into this idea, sometimes called the production effect. Basically, actively producing the language, speaking it, writing it, helps you remember and understand it way better than just passively listening or reading.
Okay, so speak to learn. What's the first specific technique it mentions for this active practice?
The first one is pretty straightforward. Speak aloud every day.
Right. Now, this probably doesn't mean giving, like, a TED Talk in your living room straight away.
No, definitely not. The guide is smart about this. It suggests starting really simple. Think children's books, short articles online, maybe even just reading social media captions out loud.
Okay, manageable.
The key thing here is focusing on the mechanics, the physical act of speaking, paying attention to your pronunciation, how the words sound, and intonation. That's the melody, right? The ups and downs in your voice. It's super important for sounding natural and conveying meaning. And also the rhythm, how sentences flow.
Yeah, the musicality of it. And the guide has this great tip: don't rush. Speaking slowly and clearly builds stronger habits.
That's crucial. Accuracy over speed, especially at the start. Get the foundation right.
Makes sense. Okay, so I'm reading my kid's book aloud, slowly and clearly. What comes next in this active practice toolkit?
The next step the guide suggests is impromptu speaking. Think and speak.
Impromptu, like off the cuff.
Exactly. This is where you start flexing those speaking muscles a bit more. It's about getting comfortable just talking about things spontaneously in English, thinking and speaking at the same time.
Right, thinking on your feet, but out loud. The guide mentions doing this in front of a mirror. That feels potentially awkward.
It can feel a bit strange at first, yeah. But the idea is it makes you more aware. You see your facial expressions, your body language, all that stuff that's part of communication, not just the words.
Okay, I can see that. And what should you talk about?
Simple stuff, really. The guide suggests picking random, everyday topics like, what did you have for lunch? What are your plans for the weekend? A recent movie you watched? Describe your favorite food.
Just talk.
Just talk about it aloud. It helps you practice retrieving words and forming sentences without overthinking or constantly translating in your head, which is, essential for real conversations.
And it mentions self-correction here too, but gently.
Yes. Notice if you make a mistake, maybe correct it, but don't get stuck on it. The point is to keep the flow going. Don't let perfectionism stop you.
Good advice. Don't want to freeze up. And there's a timer exercise mentioned too. 5 minutes nonstop.
Yeah, that's a great one for building fluency and stamina. Just set a timer for, say, 5 minutes, pick a topic, and talk. Even if you pause or repeat yourself or go off topic, just keep making sounds in English until the timer goes off.
Sounds challenging, but I can see how that would push you.
It really does. Forces you to find a way to say something, even if it's not perfect. Okay, so the last technique under active practice is mirroring conversations.
Yes, mirroring. This sounds really useful for sounding more natural. So you watch videos in English?
Right. Short clips are good, YouTube, movie scenes, whatever. And you listen to a line, pause, and then repeat it, trying to mimic everything.
Not just the words.
Not just the words. The pronunciation, absolutely, but also the tone of voice, the emotion, the rhythm, the pauses, where they put the stress. You're trying to capture the whole package to sound less like you're reading and more like you're actually speaking like a native.
Copying the nuances. That could really help bridge the gap between understanding and actually sounding natural.
Definitely. Okay, so that covers the active practice part, speaking to learn. What's the next big piece of the puzzle according to the guide?
The next chapter moves into immersion and daily exposure. And we kind of know immersion is important, right? Being around the language.
We do, but the guide makes a really key point straight away. Passive listening isn't really enough.
So just having English TV on in the background while I cook dinner. Maybe not the magic bullet.
Probably not going to transform your speaking on its own, no. The guide stresses listen actively. You need to engage your brain.
Okay, so active listening? What does that actually involve? How do I listen in a way that helps my speaking?
It means really tuning in. Pay attention to how words connect together. You know, that linking sound.
Like want to becomes wanna.
Exactly. Or where speakers put the stress on certain words or syllables. Maybe even try repeating short phrases you hear, either in your head or quietly aloud.
Shadowing, kind of.
A bit like that, yeah. And another great exercise it suggests is trying to write down exactly what you hear, just a sentence or two, and then compare it to the actual transcript if one is available.
Ooh, that would really highlight where you might be mishearing things or where the sounds run together differently than you expect.
Precisely. It sharpens your ear, which directly feeds into how you produce the sounds yourself.
Okay, active listening. Got it. Then the guide talks about integrating English into your day-to-day life more consciously. Use English throughout your day.
Yeah, this is about shifting your default settings almost. Try thinking in English when you're doing simple tasks, like figuring out what you need from the shop.
Your internal monologue.
Exactly. Narrate your actions to yourself in English. Or label things around your house, the fridge, the kettle, the sofa, sticky notes everywhere.
Okay.
And writing simple things in English helps too. Your shopping list, your to-do list, maybe a quick diary entry, or even just posting on social media in English. It all adds up.
It makes the language less of a study subject and more just part of your life.
That's the goal. And that leads into the next point, which is probably the most obvious one. Surround yourself with English.
Right. The classic advice, watch movies, listen to music.
Absolutely. TV shows, Netflix, YouTube, podcasts, English news, music. All fantastic resources. Reading counts to books, articles, blogs, even funny memes.
Memes for language learning, I like it.
Hey, whatever works. But the crucial tip here from the guide is choose stuff you actually like.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it feels like a chore, you won't stick with it.
Exactly. Find podcasts on topics you're passionate about. Watch shows you genuinely find entertaining. Enjoyment is key for sustainable immersion.
Totally agree. Okay, so we're speaking actively, we're immersing ourselves. What about the nuts and bolts? Vocabulary and grammar.
Yep, Chapter 3 tackles those fundamentals. And it starts with vocabulary, stressing that, consistent effort to grow your word bank is really vital for fluency.
You need the building blocks. So how does the guide suggest we do that effectively? Not just memorizing lists, right? Grow your vocabulary every day is the section title.
No, definitely not just rote memorization. It recommends a more active approach. Keep a vocabulary notebook or use a notes app on your phone.
Okay.
When you learn a new word, don't just write the word and its meaning. Also, and this is important, write a sample sentence using that word. Put it in context.
So you understand how it actually works in a sentence.
Precisely. And then you have to review regularly, look back at your notes often, and crucially, try to use those new words when you're speaking or writing. Actively pull them into your conversations.
Use it or lose it, basically.
Pretty much. Okay, so vocabulary is one pillar. What about grammar? That can feel pretty intimidating for a lot of learners.
Yeah, all those rules.
The guide takes a practical stance here with Master Basic Grammar. It reassures you that you don't need to be a grammar expert with perfect knowledge of every single rule to speak fluently.
That's a relief.
But it does say that understanding the basics is really helpful. Things like, common verb tenses, past, present, future, making sure your subject and verb agree, basic sentence structures.
The core stuff.
And the suggestion is to tackle these one by one. Learn a simple grammar point, then immediately try to use it in your speaking practice. Don't just read the rule, apply it.
Makes it stick better, I imagine. Less abstract.
Exactly. And connected to this, the guide also really highlights learning common phrases. Learn useful phrases.
Oh yeah, like conversational shortcuts.
Kind of. Things like, how's it going? Kritis, what do you think about? Could you say that again? I'm not sure, but I think. These kinds of phrases make your speech flow much more smoothly.
And they probably buy you a bit of thinking time too, right?
Definitely. They help you sound more natural and less like you're mentally translating every single word. They're like prefabricated chunks of language you can just slot in.
Okay, good tip.
Yeah.
So active practice, check. Immersion, check. Building vocab and grammar foundations, check. But we need to actually talk to people at some point, don't we?
Absolutely essential. And that's exactly what Chapter 4 is about. Find real speaking opportunities. You have to put all that practice and knowledge to the test with actual interaction.
Makes sense. Where does it suggest we find these opportunities? The first point is talk to native speakers. That can sound scary.
It can, but the guide offers practical ways. Joining conversation clubs, either in your local area if they exist, or online, there are loads now.
Language exchange partners too.
Yes, great option. Websites and apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, Speaky. You find someone learning your language and you help each other out. Win-win.
Nice.
Attending language meetups or visiting language cafes can also work. And remember the guide's advice. Even a short chat, maybe just 10 minutes, can be incredibly valuable, sometimes more so than an hour studying alone.
Right, because it's real dynamic communication. What if finding native speakers locally is difficult?
Good question. The guide covers that with use language apps and online communities. There are platforms like italki, Cambly, Preply, where you can actually pay for sessions with tutors or native speakers for dedicated conversation practice.
Okay, so more structured options.
Yeah, and also don't overlook online communities built around interests, Facebook groups, Reddit forums, Discord servers related to your hobbies where people communicate in English. It's a great way to practice in a more relaxed, interest-based setting.
Makes it less about language practice and more about just chatting about something you enjoy.
Exactly. And finally, in this section, if your budget allows for it, it mentions consider hiring a tutor.
A dedicated tutor. What are the specific benefits there?
Well, a good tutor can give you really personalized feedback. They can pinpoint your specific weaknesses, help correct your pronunciation on the spot, guide you towards more natural ways of saying things, introduce idioms.
Tailored guidance?
Exactly. The guide notes that even just a few sessions can really give your progress a significant boost, especially with confidence and identifying those persistent errors.
Worth considering if possible. Okay, so we've got the practice, the immersion, the building blocks, the real-world interaction. But learning a language is a long game. How do we keep going?
The million-dollar question. Chapter 5 is all about that. Stay motivated and enjoy the journey. And honestly, this might be the most important chapter of all.
Because if you quit, none of the other stuff matters.
Precisely. Motivation is the fuel. So the first key strategy here is set clear goals.
Not just get fluent.
No, that's too vague, too far away. The guide recommends setting SMART goals specific